Today's video will discuss chapter 9.6, Powers of Monomials. So we are going to talk about how to solve a problem that looks something like this. And so in previous lessons you learned about adding exponents, but I want to show you why the adding trick doesn't necessarily work here. And so I want to write x to the third out. And if you factor it out completely, it would be x times x times x. Hopefully we all agree that that says x to the third. Now remember that anything that is squared, right, or to the second power means it's that number times itself, right? If it's something to the third, it's that number 3 times. So this x to the third to the second power means it's x to the third twice. So I had to have another x to the third. So this is x to the third times x to the third, or x to the third squared. And as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this would be x to the sixth, which is going to lead us to our shortcut, okay, which would say that I could take these two exponents and I could multiply them together, and that would get me to the sixth. Now, let's see this in action. So, this first problem, 9 to the fifth to the second power. I could either write it out, I would have 5 nines and then another 5 nines, there'd be 10 of them total, or I could take this, I'm going to multiply these. Remember, the base is going to stay, so it's still going to have a base of 9, and then 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, and then down here, I've got t to the fourth, and then t to the fourth to the fifth power, means that the t is going to remain, right, because I got to keep this base, and then I'm going to take these two exponents, and I'm going to multiply them, and that will be t to the 20th. All right, now what happens when we have a leading coefficient? So we got a number now in front of the variable. 5w to the 7th power and all of that squared. Now remember, this 7 is only working on the w, whereas this 2, this exponent of 2, is actually squaring both of these. Okay, so what I have to do now is similar to the distributive property. I'm going to end up squaring this and squaring this. Right, and so you might think of this as 5 to the first power. Okay, and 1 times 2 is 2, so this is going to become 5 to the second power. Right, so in other words, it's like this squared times this squared. Right, I would multiply these exponents, which is 5 to the second power, and 5 to the second power, 5 times 5 is 25. And then I will have w to the, and I'm going to multiply these, w to the 14th. So that'd be my final answer. All right, and then the last example is how we might use this to find volume. So, we've got a cube that has a side of 2xy to the fifth, and you'll notice each of them is 2xy to the fifth. And before I solve this problem, I'd like to take a minute to just notice the cube. For someone with limited artistic ability, I was fairly impressed. I hope that you're at least slightly impressed by the cube that I drew. So this is going to be, as we find the volume of this cube, it's going to be length times width times height. But some of you have seen the shortcut, which is side cube. So I just need to figure out what is the length of one side. Since it is a cube, and I know that each of these is the same length, it doesn't matter which side I pick, any side to the third power. So this is going to be 2xy to the fifth cube. Now remember, this is going to be the same as 2 to the third times x to the third times y to the fifth to the third. Okay? And so I've kind of run out of space. I'm going to write it up here, if you're all right with that. 2 to the third is 2 times 2 times 2 is not 6. 2 times 2 times 2 is going to be 8. X, and remember there's a 1 here, so I multiply these. 3 times 1 is 3, so this is going to be x to the third, and then I'm going to multiply these, and I've got y to the 15th. So my volume should look like that. Alright, that's all we got for you today on powers of monomials. Thanks very much for watching the video. Don't forget to do the problems on the bottom of the page. See you in class.